Good day, grade 8 learners! Your teacher is back on track to help you learn the lessons in Mathematics 8. This is Teacher Michelle Niere of Tambungon National High School, Pantukan South District, and I will be your guide in enhancing your mind in facing challenges in grade 8 mathematics. Don't forget to prepare your papers and pens. Listen and understand carefully, and let us have a wonderful day of learning using inductive and deductive reasoning in an argument. At the end of the lesson, you will be able to 1. Define inductive and deductive reasoning. 2. Differentiate inductive reasoning from deductive reasoning. And 3. Draw conclusions from each given situation. Reasoning is part of our daily lives. Reasoning is always involved in making our choices. From the way we choose which route to take in going to school or the pair of clothes we want to wear. In deciding to do certain things, our decision is grounded in reasons. Drawing a conclusion from events, experiences, and logical reasonings are also part of scientific methods among scientists and mathematicians in order to formulate general view and greater knowledge. For today's lesson, you will be taught how to make a sound and logical conclusion from specific or general conclusions. In the previous modules, you have learned about identifying the hypothesis and conclusion of conditional statements and the validity of these statements based on truth value. Learning these concepts are important for you to understand how to deduce a conclusion based on logical reasoning. Before we get started, let us have first an activity. This activity is called Who or Why. Listen very carefully to the direction. Fill in the blank with what is asked. Again, fill in the blank with what is asked. Are you now ready? Then let us begin. You wake up in the morning and realizes that the sun rises in the east. You also notice that at school, the sun rises in the east. You remembered that when you had your vacation, the sun did rise in the east. Based on these observations, you conclude that the sun? Yes, very good. The sun rises in the east. We conclude that the sun rises in the east because wherever we go, whatever direction we take, the sun always rises in the east. For our next activity, kindly observe this particular example. Correct! The answer is 120. We notice that the answers from the sequence are 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100. Looking at the pattern, we see that each term increases by 20 after the first term. Therefore, we can say that by also adding 20 to 100, which is the last term, we get 120. Were you able to draw the correct conclusion in each activity? How did you come up with your answers in our first activity? In activity 1, you were able to draw an answer or a conclusion based on specific examples or events. This kind of logical reasoning is called inductive reasoning. An inductive reasoning gathers specific information, usually through observation and measurement, and then draw generalization or conclusion based on the carefully gathered information. Let's have another series of examples that show inductive reasoning. First example, in the sequence 10, 20, 30. The next term is yes, 40. Inductive reasoning allows you to make a general rule from specific examples. Like in our example 1, you are given a sequence with first 3 terms, 10, 20, and 30. From this example, you can then generalize that the sequence is a sequence of numbers that are divisible by or multiple of 10. We can also say that each term increases by 10 and so on. Therefore, we can conclude that the next term of 10, 20, 30 is 40. Observe this next example. Second example. John, a math challenger, is good in mathematics. Josh, a math challenger, is good also in mathematics. Bea, also a math challenger, is good in mathematics. And Rika, who is also a math challenger, is also good in mathematics. Therefore, we can say that all math challengers are good in mathematics. In our second example, you are given specific names of math challengers. We have John, Josh, Bea, and Rika, who are good in mathematics. From these specific examples, you can generalize that all math challengers are good in mathematics. Next example. The chair in the living room is red. The chair in the dining room is red. Therefore, the color of the chairs in the house is red. In this example, you can generalize that all chairs in the house are red, as you observed that the chairs in the living room and the dining room are red. Another type of logical reasoning is deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning allows you to make a specific conclusion based on general truth or fact. It is another way of saying that deductive reasoning uses acceptable facts, proven theorem as proof to draw a specific case or situation. Let's have examples that show deductive reasoning. Example 1. All numbers ending in 0 or 5 are divisible by 5. Number 35 is a number that ends with 5. Therefore, 35 is a number divisible by 5 since it ends with 5. Deductive reasoning starts from a general statement or fact to conclude into a specific claim. In example 1, it is a fact that all numbers ending with 0 or 5 are divisible by 5. Since 35 is a number ending with 5, we can conclude that number 35 must be divisible by 5. Next, a number 20 ends with 0. Therefore, 20 is a number divisible by 5. Example 3. Right angles measure 90 degrees. Angle A is a right angle. Therefore, angle A measures 90 degrees. Fourth example, Sally does not drink soft drinks. Then, it follows that she does not drink cola. In example 4, you are given that Sally does not drink soft drinks. Since cola is a specific example of a soft drink, then it follows that Sally does not drink cola. Now, you have already given some examples of inductive and deductive reasoning. Let me give first a wrap-up on what we have discussed earlier before we proceed to our first learning task. Inductive reasoning gathers specific information, usually through observation and measurement, and then draw generalization or conclusion based on the carefully gathered information. While deductive reasoning starts from a general statement or fact to conclude into a specific case or situation. In other words, we can say that inductive reasoning comes from a specific information to general conclusion, while deductive reasoning uses general facts to a specific situation. And that serves as the end of the first part of our discussion this afternoon. After our short break, we will have our learning task number 1. So I say, stay tuned for we will start after this break.
The Radyo Z-eskwela program of the Division of Davao de Oro is being brought to you by Nueda Builders Construction and Supply Incorporated, Maverick Builders Incorporated, Mitch Construction and Supply, Archicons Architectural Construction and Supply, DB Construction and Supply, Hanaway Builders Corporation, Phoenix 𝗠𝗶𝗵𝗿𝗶 Gasoline Station, Master Construction and Supplies, Mackenzie Builders, GP&H Construction Incorporated, Metro Gear Construction Corporation, NEN Builders and Development Services Corporation, Max Mays Enterprises Incorporated, We Inc. Construction Company, Rangay Construction and Supply, East Sussex Enterprise, WM Construction, Councilor Boogie and Miss Marjorie Vertodazo, Icon Builders and Supply, and Apex Mining Company Incorporated.
Good afternoon once again, and we are back for the second part of our session this afternoon. This time, we will have our first learning task for us to understand more about our lesson. At the end of our activities, you will be able to understand how inductive and deductive reasoning are different from each other. Listen to the instruction carefully. Identify the type of reasoning used in each of the following situation. Write IR if the statement is inductive reasoning, and write DR if it is deductive reasoning. Again, identify the type of reasoning used in each of the following situation. Write IR if the statement is inductive reasoning, and DR if it is deductive reasoning. Again, on your answer sheet, write only IR for each item, whether it is inductive for inductive reasoning, and DR only if it is deductive reasoning. Let's get started. Situation number 1. Today, Sam observes that the city alarm sounds at 9 p.m. The next day of the same time, she notices that the city alarm sound again. She remembers that the city alarm did sound at the same time the other day. She then concludes that the city alarm sounds every 9 p.m. Again, for our first situation. Today, Sam observes that the city alarm sounds at 9 p.m. The next day of the same time, she notices that the city alarm sound again. She remembers that the city alarm did sound at the same time the other day. She then concludes that the city alarm sounds every 9 p.m. A student who gets a perfect score in Mathematics 10 will be given extra credits. Anne got a perfect score in Mathematics 10. Thus, Anne will be given extra credit. Again, for item number 2. A student who gets a perfect score in Mathematics 10 will be given extra credits. Anne got a perfect score in Mathematics 10. Thus, Anne will be given extra credit. Now, let's proceed to item number 3. Situation number 3 says, no foreigner can be elected senator in our country. Peter is a foreigner. Therefore, Peter cannot be elected senator in our country. And for our last item, we have all the residents in Barangay Manggahan are exempted from taxes. The parents of Melanie reside in Barangay Manggahan. Therefore, Melanie's parents are exempted from taxes. Let me read item number 4 again. All the residents in Barangay Manggahan are exempted from taxes. The parents of Melanie reside in Barangay Manggahan. Therefore, Melanie's parents are exempted from taxes. Now, let's check your answer. For item number 1, today, Sam notices that the city alarm sounds at 9 p.m. The next day of the same time, she notices that the city alarm sounds again. She remembers that the city alarm did sound at the same time the other day. She then concludes that the city alarm sounds every 9 p.m. What type of reasoning used in this situation? The answer is, what is your answer? Correct. It is IR, meaning the statement is inductive reasoning. Did you get the correct answer? Now let's proceed to item number 2. A student gets a perfect score in Mathematics 10 will be given extra credits and got a perfect score in Mathematics 10. Thus, Anne will be given extra credit. What is your answer? Correct. It is IR or an inductive reasoning. Let's proceed to item number 3. No foreigner can be elected senator in our country. Peter is a foreigner. Therefore, Peter cannot be elected senator in our country. What is your answer? Very good. The answer is DR or it is deductive reasoning. Let's proceed to item number 4. All the residents in Barangay Manggahan are exempted from taxes. The parents of Melanie reside in Barangay Manggahan. Therefore, Melanie's parents are exempted from taxes. This type of situation is definitely the answer is DR. The situation depicts deductive reasoning. Are you enjoying our activity? There is more to that. This time, we will complete a statement by drawing conclusions. And just a little more time before our lesson will be complete. I am sure you are now ready, so let us now begin with our second activity. The instruction says, draw a conclusion from each given situation and identify the kind of reasoning used. Again, for our second activity or for our second learning task, draw a conclusion from each given situation and identify the kind of reasoning used. Item number 1. Complementary angles are two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. Angles A and B are complementary. Therefore, blank. Again, Complementary angles are two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. Angles A and B are complementary. Therefore, blank. Write your answer on your paper to complete the statement and identify what kind of reasoning is item number 1. I'm giving you 10 seconds to answer number 1, and your 10 seconds start now. To complete the statement, the answer is, what is your answer? Correct. The sum of the measures of angles A and B is 90 degrees. Why? Because angle A and angle B are complementary. Complementary angles are defined as two angles that having the sum of its measure as 90 degrees. Therefore, we can conclude that the sum of the measures of these two angles is 90 degrees. Now, what kind of reasoning is used? Very good. The answer is deductive reasoning. We'll now have item number 2. In the sequence 3, 6, 9, 12, the next number is blank. Again, in the sequence 3, 6, 9, 12, the next number is blank. In this particular item, I am giving you enough time to find the number next to 12 and identify what type of reasoning being used. And we will check your answer after having our last break. Again, we will be back for the checking of your item. You are given enough time to find the number next to 12 and what type of reasoning is being used. We'll be back after this break.
The Radyo Z-eskwela program of the Division of Davao de Oro is being brought to you by 𝗦𝗵 Builders Construction and Supply Incorporated, Maverick Builders Incorporated, Mitch Construction and Supply, Archicons Architectural Construction and Supply, DB Construction and Supply, Hanaway Builders Corporation, Phoenix Corvada Tagum Gasoline Station, Master Construction and Supplies, Mackenzie Builders, GP&H Construction Incorporated, Metro Gear Construction Corporation, NEN Builders and Development Services Corporation, Max Mays Enterprises Incorporated, We Inc. Construction Company, Rangay Construction and Supply, East Sussex Enterprise, WM Construction, Councilor Boogie and Miss Marjorie Vertodazo, Icon Builders and Supply, and Apex Mining Company Incorporated.
And we are back for the checking of your answers in item number 2. The number next to 12 is 15. And the type of reasoning being used in this item is very good, inductive reasoning. Why inductive reasoning? Because the statements first gave an example of a sequence before asking the next term. So from general to the specific term being asked. And that's the end of our second activity. Now, we will proceed with the frequently asked question. The question says, how can we easily identify that statements are in the form of either inductive or deductive reasoning? Again, the question for this afternoon is, how can we easily identify whether a statement is expressed in the form of inductive or deductive reasoning? And here's the answer. Listen very carefully. The key to identify statements, whether in the form of deducting or inducting reasoning, is to understand and examine clearly how each sentence connects with other sentence in the statement. It is important to figure whether the statements begin with an example, then coming up a generalization or conclusion, or it begins with the general facts, then giving specific cases or situations. Let me emphasize again. The key to identify statements, whether in the form of deducting or inducting reasoning, is to understand and examine clearly how each sentence connects with other sentence in the statement. It is important to figure whether the statements begin with an example, then coming up a generalization or conclusion, or it begins with the general facts, then giving specific cases or situations. Remember that if I bought the whole cake and sliced it into pieces, it is just like doing a deductive reasoning, which means from the whole cake to pieces. However, if I gather all the sliced cake and make it whole again, I am doing an inductive reasoning because I put them together to come up with the whole cake. Or simply remember the key terms in each reasoning. For inductive reasoning, it is from specific to general, while deductive reasoning, the statements come from general to specific. That's the end of our session for this afternoon. God bless and be safe, everyone.
Z-eskwela Executive Committee. The School's Division Superintendent, 𝗏𝗵𝗇𝗵𝗵𝗹𝗏 5. Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. 𝗏𝗵𝗵𝗹𝗹 OIC Curriculum Implementation Division Chief, Karina S. Frasco. School Governance and Operations Division Chief, Dr. 𝗏𝗵𝗵𝗿𝗏. Members: Cecilia Morales, Dr. Hilda A. Opeña, Dr. Arlene D. Lim, Dr. 𝗏𝗵𝗵𝗿𝗏, Dr. Dexter A. Siquinia, Nohara O. Pinute, 𝗦𝗵𝗵𝗍 Canales, Dr. Grace D. Pontillas, Virgilito C. Pabrices, Juanito Lapiceros, Engineer Norberto S. Manlangit, Jomar M. Dumupoj, Bob Daylan S. Milabat, Medard T. Ampit, and Paz Eugenia Villusino. Technical Working Committee, Productions and Communications, Lorely E. Quijano, Given G. Hinampas, Judyland T.U., Donna D.T. Bolifer, Mary Rose N. Resma, Riwen Manuel, Irene Lea C. Manguhon, and Bessie Aya N. Banians. Social Media and Packaging Team, Christian and Hara L. Martesio, William R. Ranara, Joan T. Iscoton, Roberto S. Acusar Jr., May B. Istanyol, Richard H. Arellano, Lee L. S. Blanco, Ralph A. Tabanyag, Angelo Gutierrez Jr., and Jade Karen Arais.